U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry praises the crucial role of diplomacy in resolving Iran's earlier arrest of 10 U.S. sailors who entered hostile Gulf waters. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party cancels primaries as he is the only candidate. And the European Commission opens an unprecedented inquiry into whether new Polish laws break EU democracy rules. Good evening and thanks for joining us at I-24 News. I'm Benjamin Chong-Alfares. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry thanked Iran for ending what could have been a crisis involving the Islamic Republic holding 10 U.S. sailors who it eventually freed. Kerry, who has a close relationship with Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif following the recent nuclear deal, said in a statement the issue's peaceful and efficient resolution is a testament to the critical role of diplomacy. The U.S. had earlier apologized to Tehran for the sailors trespassing. Iranian forces on Tuesday seized the U.S. sailors after their patrol boats strayed into hostile Gulf waters, apparently based on a broken navigation system. Tamar Ziv has more.
All 10 U.S. sailors detained in Iranian territory in the Gulf by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard on Tuesday were released on Wednesday. This was confirmed by both the U.S. and Iran.
Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps says the 10 American sailors apprehended after entering the Iranian territorial waters on 2 combat vessels have been released. We're just learning this right now.
A senior Iranian naval official said on Iranian television that the authorities were satisfied that the 2 U.S. Navy boats that crossed into Iranian waters did so unintentionally and as a result of a mechanical problem.
Our final finding was that it has not been a hostile crossover meant for espionage or the like. They reached the area due to a malfunction of their navigation systems, acknowledging that they did not know they were close to the Iranian territory of Farsi Island, acknowledging the matter as being inadvertent and unintentional due to the breakdown of their systems.
The general said the sailors had been well looked after whilst in custody, and the U.S. military said there were no indications that the sailors were harmed. While both sides appeared eager not to let the incident escalate further, it came at a delicate time for U.S.-Iranian relations after Iran and 6 world powers forged a landmark nuclear accord last July. Late last month, the U.S. Navy said an Iranian Revolutionary Guards vessel had fired unguided rockets near warships, including the aircraft carrier USS Harry S. Truman in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran, however, denied the vessel had done so.
Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party cancelled its February 23rd primary, declaring party head Netanyahu, who is the only candidate, the winner. Senior Likud officials called to cancel the primaries in order to save their approximately $1 million the vote is estimated to cost the movement. The alternative solutions are now being examined. We're now joined by I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev. Tal, what options does the Likud party have left to safeguard the democratic nature of the party?
Well, the Likud court, which is a democratically elected body, has declared Netanyahu the elected chair, and they say that according to the Constitution, there is no need to vote when there is only one candidate. And this story starts about 2 months ago when Netanyahu declared an early race to the Likud chairmanship, even though there is no general election in sight. But no one wanted to challenge him because the repercussions of challenging Netanyahu and then losing are too risky politically wise. So earlier this week, the Likud's election committee convened to decide if to cancel the elections altogether and to save the $1 million, but they decided to hold the vote. And the options were the option that was decided upon was that the Likud members will be choosing between a note with Netanyahu, a ballot with Netanyahu's name on it, and a blank ballot. This was ridiculed by political pundits and by members of the opposition as a farce, as a parody. So today the court reversed the decision to save the money, and there's still a question if Netanyahu will appeal this decision, because Netanyahu is concerned that ahead of the next general election, someone might decide to appeal to the court and decide and declare that he was not democratically elected. But it seems at this point that Netanyahu has begun his 7th term as the chairman of the Likud, and that there is no real challenge in sight for this decision.
Thank you, Tal Shalev, diplomatic correspondent, regarding the Netanyahu affair here in the Likud primaries. Israeli prosecutors on Wednesday called for two young Israeli Jews convicted last year in the kidnap and murder of an Israeli Arab teenager to be sentenced to life in prison. The suspects were 16-year-old minors when they were charged in 2014 but are now adults. The 16-year-old teen killed Mohammed Abu Khadeir was found burned to death in a suspected revenge killing in July following the murder of three Jewish teens weeks earlier near Hebron in the West Bank. The court's actions are being closely watched following a new wave of Palestinian knife, gun, and car ramming attacks targeting Israelis that began in October. Well, Turkey's Prime Minister Ahmed Davutoglu and Germany's Interior Minister Thomas de Maizière visited the Istanbul blast site today, where a suicide bomber killed at least 11 people, 10 of them German tourists. The bomber, an Islamic State member who recently came from Syria, blew himself up on Tuesday in Sultan Ahmed Square near the Blue Mosque and Hagia Sophia, major tourist sites in one of the world's most visited cities. 7 Germans are still recovering from their injuries, 5 of them in intensive care. The European Commission opened an unprecedented inquiry into whether new Polish laws break EU democracy rules. The inquiry follows President Andrzej Duda's approval of a controversial laws enabling the Conservative Law and Justice government to appoint the heads of public TV and radio, as well as choose judges for Poland's constitutional court. I24 News' Maya Margit has the story.
Is Poland's democracy on the brink of collapse? The European Commission launched an unprecedented inquiry on Wednesday into whether new Polish laws violate EU democratic rules. This after President Andrzej Duda greenlighted controversial laws that allow his conservative government to appoint heads of public TV and radio, as well as select judges for Poland's constitutional court.
I'm also conscious of the recent reform of the media law, which raises issues pertaining to freedom and pluralism of the media. I would like to recall that the rule of law, as defined in the rule of law framework, requires the respect for democracy and for fundamental rights, and that there can be no democracy and respect for fundamental rights without respect for the rule of law, and vice versa.
Critics see the move as the latest attempt by the ruling Law and Justice Party to consolidate power, and are calling it a throwback to Soviet-style politics. Under the new law, senior figures in public radio and television will be appointed and can be sacked by the finance minister. They will no longer be hired through tenders organized by the National Broadcasting Council. The new legislation will also see existing public broadcasting managers fired with immediate effect.
Public media used to be pluralist. There was something for every taste. There were left-leaning conversations and right-leaning conversations. Now this will become governmental media, and thus propaganda.
The judicial changes have led to widespread protests. Tens of thousands took to the streets in major Polish cities over the weekend, many of them shouting anti-government slogans. On Wednesday, European Commission Vice President Franz Timmermans said the goal of the probe is to, quote, start a dialogue with Poland. But the Polish government insists the changes are perfectly consistent with the rule of law and that Brussels should mind its own business. If the Commission deems Warsaw's new legislation to be a systemic threat to basic EU values, they could suspend Poland's voting rights in the EU Council, where member states shape EU policy.
In sports, FIFA fired General Secretary Jérôme Valcke, once one of the global soccer body's most powerful figures, amid alleged corruption involving World Cup ticket sales. The Frenchman is facing a 9-year ban after an ethics investigation considered several alleged offenses, including the black market sales of World Cup tickets. Valcke has denied wrongdoing in the past. In December, Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini, the UEFA president who was his heir apparent, were banned from football for 8 years. Our sports anchor Jonathan Regev had the following comment regarding FIFA's latest dismissal. And we don't have Regev for now. Those were the latest reports. Thank you for joining us, and join us again in 20 minutes. Thank you for watching.